The Chief Executive Officer of the Midstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, Farouk Ahmed, has given reassurance that there is no plan to increase the official price of premium motor spirit (PMS) as is being speculated in some quarters. Ahmed said this when he fielded questions from State House correspondents after he and with the newly appointed Chief Executive Officer of the Nigeria Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission (NUPRC), Benga Komolafe, were officially presented to President Muhammadu Buhari.
What comes to mind to most Nigerians is the availability of gasoline or PMS or petrol. Yes, we have been working with NMPC, that is supply of last resort, to ensure availability of petroleum products, particularly AGO and PMS, a view of the demand, particularly coming towards the end of the year, the Yuletide, where demand is high, people going back home to celebrate Christmas. So we are working on that.
The Minister of State Petroleum Resources, Timipre Silva, presented the two chief executive officers to the president in the presidential villa, Abuja. Ahmed maintained that the marginal queues being witnessed in filling stations in Abuja and some parts of the country had nothing to do with any plan by government to hike PMS price.
You see intermittent queues in some parts, maybe of Abuja and maybe the environs. Basically, what happened is that some of the depot owners selling PMS above the official ex-depot price of 148 naira. They're selling at 156, 157. And the reason they adduced was that they are paying for their logistics, like shipping, in US dollars. They are paying for NPA port charges and NIMASA charges in US dollars. And they have to go to black market to source for these US dollars. And that differential between official and the black market they buy, that's why they added about 9 naira to 10 naira, depending on whether you are in Lagos or Calabar, Port Harcourt or Ogara. Now, we had a meeting the week before last on Tuesday the 9th. NPA was there represented, and the DG Nimasa was there as well. NMPC, major marketers, Moman and Dubman were all there. And we all agreed and resolved that NMPC excess capacity of their shipping, their vessels, would be chartered to all marketing companies and they'll be charging in Naira. So now NMPC now will go and source for conversion in US dollar through the CBN. As for the NIMASA and NPA charges, it was all agreed that they will revert back to their supervising ministry to get direction on the receipt of their charges in Naira rather than US dollars. And I understand the process of that engagement with the supervising ministry has already commenced. Was the NMPC from the 15th of this month, they have already converted to charging Naira instead of dollar for their excess capacity charter to all marketing companies. So I believe with this, there will be no reason for the depot owners to increase their price beyond the official selling price of 148 naira.
Also, addressing the correspondents, the Minister of State Petroleum Resources, who led the two chief executive officers to meet with President Buhari, said the president was happy with the level of implementation of the Petroleum Industry Act PIA 2021. Silva said although the price of the essential commodity was not regulated by Nigeria, some steps would be taken internally to provide some relief ahead of the Yuletide.
We must understand that cooking gas is not subsidized. It is already a deregulated commodity. So the price of cooking gas is not determined by government or by anybody here in the industry. In fact, gas prices are determined internationally. And you are all aware that in Europe today, gas prices have gone up. There was even a crisis in Europe relating to gas prices. So the pricing of gas internationally now affects also the price of gas in the country. And I want to assure you that we are quite concerned. Mr. President also is very concerned. He's aware that the price of gas is high in the market, and we are doing everything to see how we can bring down the price of gas, especially as we approach the Yuletide.
On the transition of cars from the use of petrol to gas, Silva said government would need about 6 billion naira for the procurement of kits to convert the first 1 million cars and facilitate the procurement of equipment that would enable gas pump stations come on board.
I'm happy that you noted that we were far-sighted by beginning the work on the transition from petrol to gas a long time ago. That process actually was kicked off, I believe, in December 2020 by Mr. President. It's a whole process. We have to have a critical amount of cars converted for us to make this viable for investors. If you have just 1 or 2 cars converted, then it is not enough for anybody to go and invest in gas pump stations because of 2 or 3 cars. So you need to have a critical amount of cars converted, and then when you have that number of cars converted, you also need to have a critical amount of gas pumping stations installed, so that these number of cars can have places to refill. So to develop this is not just a one-day process. There is a lot of funding required to put the infrastructure in place for the pumping stations, to also enable the investment in that area. And then also, we promised 1 million free conversion kits, if you remember. And that also there's a lot of cost. And the cost that it came to about 600 billion naira to be invested in installing these pumping stations, and also to have the conversion kits to convert a critical amount of cars.